Today's visual novel is G-Senjou no Maou, or Devil on the G-String. This is produced by Akebe Soft 2, which also has produced Sharan no Kuni and Sono Yokogao A Profile. So Akebe Soft 2 generally delves into darker drama than most other visual novels of this type. They'll have slice of life elements, but they'll be a little more focused on the plot, and when it actually gets to the drama, it's a little bit darker, a little bit more mature and serious than other visual novels of this type. But what is G-Senjou no Maou all about? You play as a guy named Azai Kyosuke, who is the acting son for the Azai Corporation, headed by Azai Gonzo, also a front for the Yakuza. Kyosuke basically works for them because he has a debt to pay. He delves into deals such as extortion, underhanded deals in general, and also handling some finances for the Azai Corporation. He does some things that are less than ideal, and quite honestly, he's not necessarily a good guy, which is a rarity in visual novels when you're not playing a good guy in a plot-based visual novel. That may throw some people off, others may find this interesting, and I would encourage you to give it a shot based on that. Anyway, he doesn't just do that, though. He's also a part-time student at a high school, as you can imagine. He doesn't go to all his classes, but he does they have to have a high school setting in anime and visual novels. It just has to be done regardless. And maybe for this one, that was a bit much. But what happens is a transfer student comes in by the name of Usami Haru, who has long, messy hair, and she's very quirky and weird. And she says she is looking for the Maou, or a mysterious crime lord that has engaged in other activities in the past and is now looking to come up again. And his motives are unclear, but she has a grudge against him and she wants to put him to justice, so she says. And Kyosuke also gets a mysterious email from this Maou. And the plot is basically about this one individual making all these problems for people and trying to do something that you're not sure what it is. It is very much a drama, mystery, crime visual novel. More focus on the drama and the crime aspect, obviously, but does have some mind game aspects to it, much like Death Note. These parts are actually, when it has basically there are sections where the Maou and Haru are actually trying to outsmart each other, and these sections, I believe, are written by the Death Note author, if I'm remembering right. I believe they are, so if you're a Death Note fan, you might want to check it out too. There's also one other thing that's a little different than other visual novels. What happens in this one is, in most visual novels, you get a common route, right? Got a common route, then it branches off, you pick a heroine, and it ends. That's not quite how this visual novel works. There is a common route, chapter 1, but it's very short compared to most common routes. In fact, this visual novel in general is very fast-paced. Most visual novels spend a lot of time introducing their characters and getting you to really know them, but this one, not the case. It gets right into the plot. It does an initial introduction for all the characters, but then it gets right into it. It is very fast-paced compared to most visual novels, and I think a lot of visual novels could learn from G-Senjou no Maou because sometimes they take the slowness a little too far, and that's one of the strong things about this game, is even though it's very fast-paced, it doesn't feel that rushed. Not quite, at least. It does, however, feel like they didn't think some sections of the game through, and some sections are, quite honestly, just not that well done, and maybe that's because they had to keep the pacing up, but I'll get into those later. But yes, if you're tired of slow visual novels, give this one a shot, because it's much faster paced than those. The other thing that's a little different than other visual novels is usually, like I said, you take a common route, then you go on a heroine route, right? And then that's that. However, in this visual novel, what happens is, say, chapter 1, it's the common route, whatever. Chapter 2 comes along, and it's Tsubaki's route. And basically you can choose to end up with her, or you can choose not to end up with her. And then the story keeps going. Most visual novels, when they ending point is there for all the girls, and you basically go to decide which ending you go with. And in that regard, basically, you either continue the main plot or you go on to this subplot with the main girl and end there. Well, not the main girl, with a girl and end there. And I think that makes a lot of players be like, well, I'll play the subplots later because I'm more interested in the main plot. Do not do this, okay? If you play this game, do not do this. Play all the subplots first. They're important. They give you details that are important. They give a lot of character development for Kyosuke that he normally would not get. It is important that you play these. The ending is nowhere near as good, nor does it make as much sense unless you play these 3 routes. There are 3 other girl routes you have to play. So make sure you play them. They're not that long, and trust me, they're worth it. Musically, the game actually remixes a lot of classic themes and such. You can think of this as cheating, I guess, but the music is pretty nice to listen to, so I couldn't really complain. Sometimes they were remixes of songs of some classics, like there's this one slow, sad song that's like a remix of Amazing Grace, and for the life of me, could not hear Amazing Grace in this song, so you might not even notice it. The one that's very obvious is El Fortuna, of course, because it's just obvious when they play it. But yeah, it uses classical remixes, and the music's quite pleasant, much better than most visual novels. But I guess you could say it kind of cheats to make good music. But I can't deny the music's great, and the voice acting is great. Make sure you listen to the voice acting because it's superb. If you skip through it, fine, but if you appreciate good voice acting, this one is very much worth listening to. It has Jun Fukuyama in it, who has played the main character of Spice and Wolf, Lawrence, and also played the guy that I absolutely hate, but I'll give him credit, Lelouch v. Britannia. I hate Code Geass, just putting that out there. Won't go into that, but yeah, he plays the Maou, and yeah, it also has the guy who played Kurogane from Tsubasa as Gonzo, so yes, very, very good voice acting here. A problem with this visual novel, though, is sometimes it would not blend things very well. Like, it has moments of slice of life and comedy, and, you know, it doesn't have too many of these scenes, so it's not a big deal, but unfortunately when they happen, they feel a little out of place for how dark a drama this visual novel tends to be. These sections aren't very funny, for one thing, especially with some of the characters, and they just don't belong, really. They don't add anything to the game. They don't really get you to know the characters very well. It just shows the characters in certain situations. The bro character, the green-haired kid that I can't even remember his name. I think it's like Eikichi or something. And he is worthless. I don't even know why he's in the plot. I mean, I guess they just wanted to have a bro character, but it's like he's a worthless bro character. He doesn't even contribute to the plot, like, at all. It's not like Isono and Sharon no Kuni, who actually was a part of the plot despite being a comic relief character. And it's not as and the comic relief in that game was belonged a lot more, because that game was sort of half serious, half silly, so it belonged a lot more. In this one, it's really serious for the most part. So not a big fan of how they handled the slice of life, and they really could have cut most of it out. But other than that, it is a game I can safely recommend to just about anyone who's a visual novel fan. Anyone who can tolerate a visual novel, you should try this game out. You might really like it, you might hate it, you should give it a try, even if you might hate it. Who cares? It's worth it. It's not that long. It's probably like, even if you listen to all the voice acting, it's probably like 30 hours or something. It's pretty short for a visual novel, I want to say, and it's worth your time. It has a pretty good ending and stuff. Some people think this is the best visual novel ever. What's my view on that? Well, we'll get into that if you want to stick around for spoilers. But if not, I'm going to go into spoiler territory now. And beware. Do not go past this point if you do not want spoilers. Common Route, Chapter 1. You know, this is just an introduction. Like I said before with what I said earlier, it's got you some slice of life points and it introduces the characters mildly, but it doesn't really accomplish this very well. It's very much just an excuse to introduce the characters and get you into the Maou situation. There's not much to say about the Common Route, I guess. Calling it the Common Route just feels wrong, really. But, it's just kind of there. I don't feel like it's necessary. It's just the introduction. There's really not much to say about it other than, all those little red herrings that start giving you that maybe Kyosuke is the Maou. And quite honestly, I don't know if it was Chapter 1 that did this, but it might have been Chapter 1, but I feel like they were giving you so many red herrings that it was just obnoxious. So I was like, okay, Kyosuke can't be the Maou because they're trying to trick me that he is the Maou so hard. And I don't feel like that was incredibly well done. So not much to say about this chapter. So we're gonna go into Chapter 2, which is Tsubaki's route. Tsubaki, this is not a character that I'm sure anyone expected anything from. And her route is just flat out amazing. It is amazing. She gets tons of character development. You never expected the nice girl just to go through the phases she went through. She went through so much. She is actually so well developed in this entire route. Even if you don't go into her actual route, which she gets even more development, she's still a very well developed character, which I did not expect at all. I really didn't expect anything. Like, she initially was very simple-minded, very, not very complex at all. How could you possibly, make a character like this interesting? And really, the Maou showed that, you can certainly do it if you implant some darkness into a really nice person. You can make them an interesting character, and it very much did that. And also, Kyosuke gets a lot of development in the actual route when you go into it. He gets so much, and it's really, really nice to see. And their romance, which I thought would be incredibly unnatural, is actually really, really well done. Really, really good. Honestly, I have zero things. I would talk about the route more, but there's really not much to say. I have zero complaints about this route. It's paced well. Tsubaki might be the most well-developed character out of any character in any visual... Well, not out of any character. Out of any heroine route, she is the most well-developed, I feel. That's definitely how I feel. The only ones that are really a competition for that are Sakura from Fate Stay Night, Kurisu from Steins Gate, and Maya from Muv-Luv Alternative, and possibly Sumika as well. But really, really well-developed character, good romance. It's not just a good route. It's not just a great route. It's an excellent route. It's one of the best heroine routes in any visual novel. I have no complaints about it. It doesn't really have a cheesy cop-out ending. Yes, it gets a little cheesy at times and whatnot. However, there is one thing that this route kind of did for me. It was like, well, where did the Maou go? He just disappeared. Where did he go? And Usami's like, yeah, you're the Maou because of this, this, this. And I'm like, okay, well, if he's the Maou, I guess I know who the Maou is for the rest of the game. That's a little unexciting, but I guess I can take it. Maybe it'll still be interesting to some degree. And I was like, well, it just felt random that he would leave randomly. So I was like, of course, you learn stuff about Kyosuke's past, and once you learn all that stuff about Kyosuke's past, you're like, okay, maybe that caused him to go a little insane. And I guess that's why he became the Maou on the flip side. And, I guess that's that. Oh well, Chapter 3, Kanen's Route. A lot of people seem, what I see for a lot of people say is she's not very likable. No, she isn't quite very likable, but she is very, very interesting. A very interesting character. Once again, much like Tsubaki, you expect nothing from her. It's like, well, how could they possibly make this Emoto character any good? How could they possibly make her interesting? And boy, do they make her interesting. She is quite the character. It's just, you know, she's got so many layers to her. She's she's just doing all that stuff that she shows to Kyosuke and everyone else. She seems really simple-minded, but she's not nearly as stupid as she makes herself out to be. She just has so much ambition that she cannot be bothered with anything else, and it makes you realize whose daughter she is. Gonzo, the badass of this game. And her route? Much like Tsubaki's, it's just well-paced, well-developed, has a lot of good drama in it, and there's really nothing to complain about. Really, really there isn't. It's not just a good route, it's not just a great route, it's an excellent route. I will say the ending in Kanen's Route is probably the best out of all the endings in the visual novel. And you're like, what about chapter 5? I'll get to that, don't worry about that. Yeah, it's really, really good. Just the whole thing is really, really good. I know she's not the most ideal girl in the world, and I know a lot of people think, oh, she's so bitchy, blah, blah, blah. She's so negative, and I'm like, that's a thing. If you take a positive character and give them some negative traits, you can truly make them believable, truly make them interesting. Yes, it might be a little overbearing at times, but I really don't feel like they pushed her that far, and she totally made up for it by the end. And even if she didn't, you could still make a really interesting character if they don't have a lot of likable traits, much like Swan Song's Kuwagata. He's a very interesting villain. And yeah, it was a good route. What's funny in this route is the Maou leaves the city, right? And you're just like, okay, why did he leave the city? He said, I found love. I'm like, you found love? Are you kidding me? Then I'm like, okay, Kyosuke most definitely has to be the Maou, because I'm like, well, I guess if he finds love, he finds inner peace and all that stuff. And yeah, this route's a little more focused on Kanen than Kyosuke, which is no problem really, because Kyosuke got a lot in Tsubaki's route. Well, let's not even beat around the bush. He gets the most in Tsubaki's route. So, yeah. It's a good route. Romance is good, everything about it is good, and even some of the decisions, you might be like, why is Kyosuke doing this? And like, why does he push Kanen away at that one point, and it actually ends up helping her? And yeah, really good stuff. So I was on a roll. We were on a roll with this game, right? And then we get to chapter 4, and this is Mizuha's route, and I'm like, man, there is no way this character can be good. No way! She's just a tsundere. She's like a simple tsundere, too. It's like, she was kind of funny, though, I guess, but it was like, how is this character ever gonna be interesting in this kind of game? And, you know, and it's funny because Yuki, her sister, is very interesting, yet she doesn't get a route. And a lot of players got really annoyed by this, and I'm like, you know what, that is kind of annoying, but, you know, I feel like there just was no way for her to be a heroine with her kind of story setup, with her revenge story, you know? And this route is done a little differently than the other routes. Like, it's funny because the split point where you choose to either go with Mizuha or continue on with the story comes a lot sooner than the other routes. When you split to Mizuha, you're only getting half the story. So you definitely have to play both parts to get the full story on this, and you most certainly should. Now, let's say, on the Mizuha part, when you pick Mizuha, I was disappointed with this route somewhat initially, because it used a time skip. And I really don't like time skips in stories unless it's just about training, you know, it's a fighting show and they gotta go train. That's the only time I like using time skips. But she got a lot of development in that time skip. And yeah, she got so much development and you didn't get to see it. You got to see what triggered her development, but you didn't get to see it. And I love seeing character development. You got to see it with Kanon and Tsubaki, so why couldn't you see it with Mizuha? And then she becomes an incredibly good character. Incredibly good. I would have loved to see her become this character. I would have loved to see the steps to her becoming this character. But, you know, I guess I can see the way it's written. And of course, because they skip all that stuff and have the time skip, this route is the shortest in the game, technically. But, you know what? I do give them credit for something weird. I mean, despite, you know, Mizuha, at first, there's no way, you know, thinking you're like, there's no way that she could end up with Kyosuke and have a proper relationship with him. And then you see the time skip and you see them act together and you're like, oh, wow, this is really natural. Like, really, really natural. It's actually kind of funny how natural it is. And yeah, I can't say I can fault this. I mean, it's a really nifty and cool romance, actually. And the ending is still really good, really heartfelt and sincere and all that stuff. In fact, you know, it might be one of the most heartfelt endings in the game. I'm gonna give Kanon a little bit more than that, but it's really good. And quite honestly, even though they skipped the development, I was disappointed with that. It was still good. I can't deny it did give me some feels, as a lot of people call it. People seem to get feels from anything. I'm really not that easily affected. I don't know how people are this sensitive these days. They'll get feels if they see a commercial of some baby getting scrubbed down or something in a bath. So, yeah, I'm not that much of a feels guy, but this ending did give me good emotion. And then you do the second part where you don't pick Mizuha and you just continue with the route and you actually see Yuki's kind of revenge thing and Haru's kind of trying to convince her not to go through with killing the guy she wants to kill, who isn't the guy that she thinks it is anyway. And you learn later that Haru's she says she doesn't want her to go down that path, even though Haru's a giant hypocrite because she does the exact same thing she does later. Oh well. And yeah, this part is pretty good, and it still has a little bit with Mizuha that's nice and interesting. It's nice to hear about Yuki, how she feels about that sisterly relationship. So overall, this chapter, I'm gonna say, is weaker than the other two, but not bad. Then we get to chapter 5, you know, the big chapter. This is the last chapter in this, you know, amazing game, right? It's supposed to be epic, it's supposed to be full of win. What happens at first is, you know, Kyosuke is having doubts about himself. He thinks he is the Maou. Everyone thinks he is the Maou. His mother gets killed randomly. Completely randomly. I don't think Gonzo did it. It was like, what the heck? And I'm like, oh gosh, things are dramatic happening. And Kyosuke is in a slump. He thinks he's the Maou and all this stuff is happening. But then it shifts to a scene where the Maou is chasing Haru down an alley. No, it was in a train station, I believe. Sorry, it's been a year and a half since I played this game, so that's why I'm not giving you a summary of every little bit of the routes. Sorry about that. And, yeah, and then the most shocking thing in the world happened. You get revealed who the Maou truly is. It is someone we know absolutely nothing about. So shocking, right? No, that's not why it's shocking, and the reason it's shocking is because the Maou is not Kyosuke. The Maou is not Kyosuke. It is Kyosuke's older brother. Mind you, they never mention this character at all in the game until an hour before he gets revealed. They have this subtle hint with this picture, but I thought that was their dad or something. Yeah. This is probably the worst plot twist I've ever seen in a visual novel. It makes no sense! It's stupid! God, why is it stupid, though? I'm not just gonna bash it for no reason. Okay. If his brother is the Maou, then why did he leave in all the other 3 girl routes? Why did he just randomly leave? And I've gotten almost no answers until I looked yesterday, and I found that he left because of what he said in chapter 3. He said that he found love. He remembered his brother's love. What? He remembered his brother's love? Why didn't he remember it in this route? Why didn't he remember it any time earlier than this? Why? What? You mean he only remembered that he loved his brother if his brother got a girlfriend? But as soon as his girlfriend's Haru, he was like, fuck that. What the hell? What were they thinking with this ending? And this makes no sense. Even if you go with the brother's love angle, that makes even less sense. Why does Kyosuke have to have a girlfriend for him to, what the hell? It makes no sense. And they're so obnoxious with the red herrings. They're way too obnoxious. I mean, Kyosuke and Kyohei both get headaches. They both get blackouts. Are you kidding me? Kyosuke has to go see a psychologist. Kyosuke, God, there is so much. It's like, and it's all just a giant red herring. And they cheat so much by giving the Maou a voice and you don't get to hear Kyosuke's voice. And they look the same and everything like that. It's just the biggest cop-out I've ever seen in my freaking life. I mean, it is terrible. They put no thought into this ending. It makes no sense. Yes, there are defenses on why Kyosuke couldn't be the Maou, like he was too young to kill Haru's mother, and how would he get all that money? But I still think they could have thought of reasons for that other than Kyosuke's brother randomly leaving and the other routes. It's like, okay, I can understand if, Kyosuke is crazy and love kind of brought him back to the neutral zone, but here it's just fucking terrible. It's the worst plot twist ever, and it almost destroyed the entire story for me because of how little sense it made and how much it destroyed what could have been. This could have been so much more interesting if Kyosuke was the Maou, but they decided to make Kyohei the Maou, someone we don't even know and don't even care about. I mean, it's like, what? And they realize this, so what do? They're like, you know what, we're gonna give this giant, info dump, this exposition on Kyohei's character, what he's been doing, and why you should care, right after the reveal. Yeah, such great storytelling there. Yeah. As you can see, I was not happy. I had stopped playing for 3 hours after this got revealed. I almost wanted to quit the game. Good thing I didn't, but god dang, this was so damn stupid. Because it's like, I was thinking, if Kyosuke's the Maou, and he's gonna romance with Haru because that's just the nature of visual novels, that would have made an incredibly interesting dilemma, It would have made an incredibly interesting dilemma for Haru to be romancing with the guy that killed her mother, and for Kyosuke to be realizing that he's actually a psychopath. And it makes me think that the reason they didn't go through with Kyosuke being the Maou is because they wanted Kyosuke to end up with Haru. Because that's what the audience would have wanted. They wanted to make sure that he could end up with Haru by the end of the game. Damn you guys! I hate you all! You shippers! You ruined this story! If that's not the reason, then I'm sorry, but that's the only thing I can come up with. Because if they legitly thought, the story makes sense, then they're a bunch of idiots. And I know it seems like I'm nitpicking a lot, but god dang! This is the biggest plot twist in the game! It's important! And if it doesn't make any sense at all, then yeah. Whatever. Let's just move on. And the other thing is, what does Haru's romance turn out to be? It was a childhood promise to get married to him. Oh God, why? You went with that? You mean you made their romance actually the most boring thing to make in the game? And quite honestly, that's true. Their romance is the most boring romance in the entire game. I know a lot of people, they really like Haru. I understand that. But her romance with Kyosuke was very poorly done compared to the other three. In fact, it didn't really even feel sincere at all. It felt kind of forced, to be quite honest. It's not terrible, but it's just so much worse than the other three that it just feels like, eh. It feels like with Haru. And also, the other thing about Haru in this route is, this is her route. This is her chapter, right? She actually doesn't have that much screen time in this chapter compared to the other heroines. She doesn't feel that important. She is important, but she's not as important. This route is more about the Maou than her, which is probably a good thing because the Maou is more interesting than her. This is actually the Maou's route, not her route, and calling it her route is just wrong if you ask me. It's like calling Coco, the last route in Ever 17, Coco's route, which is not true. And yeah, her character doesn't even develop that much in this route. Yeah, I mean, develops a little bit, but not much. In fact, during this game, she doesn't even develop that much at all. Not really. I mean, a little bit, but compared to every other character in the game, she gets so little. Because, I mean, the only thing interesting in this route is you realize that she has a psychological problem. Because, you know, the Maou has traumatized her. And it makes you think, wait a minute, earlier in, I believe, Tsubaki's route, or it might have been another route, I don't remember, been a year and a half, she accuses Kyosuke of being the Maou. She says it has to be him. And what does she do? She says, yep, you're the Maou. Okay, I'm gone. And she leaves. No. No! That is so stupid. Could we see some conflict, please? Like, shouldn't there be a lot of conflict? She hates the Maou. She wants to kill the Maou. She doesn't want to arrest him. She wants to kill him. And, yeah, she just blows it off? Are you kidding me? See how little this, you know, and you could say, well, it's because she loves Kyosuke. That's why I was like, could we see more of a conflict than how easily she just brushed it off before? It just doesn't even make any sense. It feels like they wanted to make this big epic route, but they did not make the plot details make any sense. And what happens in this route is incredibly entertaining, as everyone will probably tell you. This is the best route in the game. That's what everyone who plays it is probably going to tell you. It's the best route, and it is incredibly entertaining. It's an adrenaline pumping route. It's for the adrenaline junkies, really. That's who this route is for. The adrenaline junkies, you know, those people who really think Attack on Titan is the best anime ever made. But, yeah, it's a fun route. It is a fun route, other than those horrible, horrible plot details. It just goes berserk, and all that crap. And it's like, wow, this game got insanely dark. And it might actually feel a little jarring, just how action-oriented it gets towards the end. But, you know, I'm not going to complain too much about that. It's still quite good. This part of the route is excellent. But then, they think the Maou dies at the end, right? They think he dies because he got caught in that bus fire, but somehow he didn't get caught in that bus fire. How the hell he managed to get out of that? I don't know. I don't care. And, you know, the most interesting thing with Haru is that Haru cannot get over her little problem she has. Which really means she got 0 character development, huh? No, I won't accuse her of that. She definitely got some, but yeah. And the ending comes where Kyosuke is forced to shoot his brother, otherwise Haru would become a murderer, and he has to defend her and say, no, it was me, and he acts like a complete jackass to the police to say it was all, to make it so it's all his fault. And yeah, and then an incredibly emotional ending follows, where all the girls visit him in prison, and, you know, they just give their thanks to him for helping them out earlier on. And the reason this scene is so effective for me was because I was really attached to all 3 of those girls in the other routes. And, you know, yeah, it was pretty heavy ending. It was really epic, and it showed how much Kyosuke has developed throughout the game. And yeah, good ending, really good. Everyone will tell you that this ending is just amazing, and it is amazing. And then he gets out and he sees Haru with her daughter, and it still manages to end happy without having to cop anything out. Thank God, you know. I hate cop-outs, and this game managed to have really limited, you know, the cop-outs it had were forgiving, I think, but really limited cop-outs, so the ending was really good. It might be the best visual novel ending. It's up there with Swan Song or whatever, but it's really good. Now this game as a whole, is a little messy, and the story is a little weak. I'm not gonna lie, the story's a little weak. And it's a little unbalanced. Tsubaki compared to Haru, Tsubaki gets 20 times more development than Haru. Even canon does. And they feel a lot more interesting too. In fact, I'm gonna say this. Tsubaki, Haru, and Mizuha don't initially seem interesting. So the writers actually had to put a lot of effort to make them interesting. While with Haru, it felt like since they knew the audience would like her base personality, it felt like they didn't even try. And for me, that's just not enough. Yes, a lot of people will say Haru's the best heroine. I disagree. She's the weakest heroine in the game because she gets so little character development compared to the other characters in general. Every character gets more character development than her. Every important character. And her romance with Kyosuke is just not very good. And quite honestly, it's nice that she's a strong, independent woman. I like those kind of characters too, but I don't know, she just doesn't feel like they gave her a lot of justice. I wanted her to be good. I like her character too, guys, but I just don't feel like they tried very hard with her. Much like Sarah in Ever 17, I like the character, but they did not put a lot of effort into her. They really, really didn't. And another weakness in this game, besides the horrific plot twist, ugh, almost ruins the entire plot. And it's a funny thing about that plot twist before I get into the bad thing, is the fact that he has this giant elaborate plan that goes in chapter 5 that is just crazy. And he still randomly gives up. Yeah, it really makes a whole lot of sense. Oh well. But another problem with this game is the mind games. They're just not very well done, quite honestly. They're too over the top. They're too much, and the characters, like Haru during them, she just feels like a robot, really. She's like, I gotta figure stuff out super fast, he's not gonna outwit me, blah, blah, blah. And while at least the Maou feels like an asshole while he's being a mind gamer, and they're not very well done because they're just too over the top. They needed to tone it down. You don't have to try to make mind games exciting. They will be exciting if you do them well. Like Kaiji and Akagi and even the mind games in Death Note are better than this. And they're not bad. They're not bad, but I just don't think they're very well done. And like I said, they're fun, but they're not very well done. So this game, I honestly think it's weaker than Sharan no Kuni by a good bit, actually. The Tsubaki canon and Mizuha routes, excellent. The reason I think canon's ending is better than Chapter 5 is mainly because it feels more sincere. It really does. While the ending for Chapter 5, it's just Kyosuke and Haru's relationship is not well done. It just isn't. It really, really isn't. It takes it for granted. It really does. And Haru feels more like a plot point at times. She is a character. She doesn't have Reen's problem from Little Busters or Kaguri's problem from Rewrite, but she does feel like she's used as a plot point too often when she should be a character. And that's really disappointing because she's the main girl and a lot of game was focused on her. But overall, it was still a really, really good game and really a lot of fun. I wish that plot twist was adjusted, or I wish they planned it out more because it literally makes no sense and it really hurts the story. But overall, it is still a good game. Still was very much worth my time. I still liked it. Very much entertained. So can't complain too much if it's gonna give me some of the best heroine routes I've ever read. And overall, yeah, good stuff, but could have been better. And there's not much to say about that game anymore. I should review Sharan no Kuni next, I guess, and which there's really not gonna be much for me to say about that game, but I'll do it anyway. Alright, thanks for joining, and have a good day.